Why is it that people talk about enlightenment like it's only meant for a few chosen ones? Isn't enlightenment actually something we can all reach if we just have the right methods? Hi, I'm Naika, your host. In this third season, episode 13 of Towards a Solar Civilization, Carmen takes us on a journey through the many methods of experiencing the divine life that the sun reveals to us. To give you some context, back in the very first episode, Science of the Initiates, Carmen laid out the foundation, the structure, if you will, that all initiates follow to reach illumination. She showed how the civilizations that truly thrived were built on a solar philosophy. Then, in episode 4, Yoga of the Sun, Anatole explored how the sun shaped history and continues to influence our lives in countless ways. In this episode, you will discover practical methods you can use to expand your consciousness. You will hear how to prepare yourself before greeting the sunrise, and even learn some of the formulas to say as the sun rises, including ones given by the Master himself. We will also explore how to connect with your higher self, how to work with colors to strengthen your aura, how to create a spiritual rosary, and discover what the body of glory is and how to develop it. And finally, how to form a laser meditation with your family and friends to help uplift humanity. Over to you, Carmen.
How nice it is to find you back again on this third series. Where would we go without the sun? How could we live without the sun? Our episode today will focus on the importance of the sun and the light, not just physically, but spiritually, and how to use them both as pathways to enlightenment. Since the sun is the most obvious distributor of the light, let's look at the sun from the traditional science and from the initiatic science. When science was young and religion governed the people, it was believed and commonly accepted that the earth was at the center of the universe. The geocentric model was the dominating point of view of that epoch. Those who hinted at a different perception, such as Aristarchus of Samos in the 3rd century, were ridiculed. It was Copernicus in the 16th century who put forth the heliocentric model, a point of view for which he was imprisoned, as the church was still supporting the Ptolemy's-static concept of the geocentric system. Believe it or not, it took another 100 years before the Copernicus model was finally accepted. Although today the heliocentric point of view is the norm outwardly, we have not yet learned the benefits of adopting it inwardly. This means to set spirit at the center of our life, of our inner practices, and all our activities. The sun is the initiator of science. It shows distance, depth, weight, all that are shown by the sun. The sun is the initiator of religion. Warm human beings and they begin to appreciate, rejoice, and show admiration for the sun. The sun is the initiator of art. Through the desire to express one's creativity, drawings were born, and thanks to the sun that showed these drawings. Another important difference between conventional science and initiatic science is that one studies the details and the other focuses on synthesis. Traditional science likes to study the size, composition, elements, the minute details of everything. Look at all the specialties of medicine. So many disciplines, but no one looks at the way a person lives. Initiatic science will look at the whole picture. It takes a higher point of view which affords to intervene more quickly and rectify things. The closer we get to matter, the more details there are to study and to get lost in. But the more we elevate ourselves and perceive the synthesis, the closer we get to truth. Take an obvious example, a fruit. Science will study its size, shape, elements, and so forth, whereas initiatic science will taste the fruit. A fundamental principle of initiatic science is that everything begins first in the invisible and then becomes visible. In other words, everything starts in spirit before it becomes a manifestation. It is said in Genesis that God created the light on the first day, and that on the fourth day he created the sun, moon, and stars, separating light from darkness. Thus day and night were born. Doesn't this imply that the light of the first day is something different than that of the fourth day? In English, French, and Spanish, there is one word for light, but in Bulgarian, there are two words to describe it. The light of the first day is called videlina, the invisible light, and that of the fourth day is called svetlina, the visible light. What is interesting in this distinction is that videlina is the one that contains all the essence of creation. It also means that before the light was made visible through the sun, it existed in the invisible. The invisible light videlina is the primordial fire in which we live, move, and have our existence. It is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. It is the word spoken by St. John. That divine fire, spirit, is the eternal masculine principle which engendered the soul, the feminine divine principle, through which all forms can be made manifest. We can deduct that the light of the first day gave birth to the sun, moon, and stars, which light became manifest on the fourth day. We just said that fire, the masculine principle, engendered the light, the feminine principle. It doesn't stop there. They feed on each other. The soul eats the fire and the spirit drinks the light. They feed on the complementary principle. How fascinating! This translates all the way down, human beings, except that we are not conscious of the archetype and that we are a blueprint of that archetype. While mentioning the primordial fire, let's look at three different types of fire. The divine sacred fire, as we just mentioned, the astral fire of passions that consumes the heart and makes people so unhappy, and then the physical fire that can literally burn everything down. The subject of light is a fascinating one and is at the root of nearly every religion and every spiritual movement, yet none can say it is exclusively theirs. Do you remember seeing paintings of saints and prophets with a halo around their head? It reflected their profound knowledge, their wisdom, their higher state of consciousness. Light is so essential we cannot exist without it, much less finding our way around without it on the physical plane. Even on the mental plane, light plays a role, as it is in the expression, "I see what you mean," or in our reference to a person's luminous mind. And there is the light that belongs to the spiritual plane, such as wisdom and enlightenment. If you ask where the physical light comes from, the answer would be, well, mainly from the sun, and a bit from the moon, and even less from the stars, or simply by a light bulb. Indeed, this light coming from the sun is composed of photons, quanta of electromagnetic energy. Nowadays, with the progress of quantum physics, scientists have discovered that light reacts to their observation. They even refer to the Higgs boson as the God particle. So it must be that light is a living spirit. We are getting very close to uniting religion and science, aren't we? Again, traditional science described the sun as a self-consuming ball of fire, and we assume it is right. Yet initiates and spiritual masters who, through their purity and dedication, have been able to astral travel beyond the boundaries of the earth and through the universe, agree that it is something other than a ball of fire. They say it is a living being, so luminous and so pure that only those of the same essence can come close to it. Omraam Mikhaël Aïvanhov goes so far as saying that the sun is the best representation of the Christ principle. Christ is not a man. Jesus was the man. Christ is a state of consciousness, and the Spirit of Christ dwells in the sun. His light permeates everything. It is represented by the Trinity, which we find in the sun. Its light corresponds to wisdom. Its warmth corresponds to love, and its life is life itself, which is linked to willpower and truth. Again, you see how the Trinity of the divine world is reflected in the Trinity of the sun, and again in our own structure as mind, heart, and will. What is down below is like what is above, and what is above is like what is below. Anyone knows who said that? Yes, Hermes Trismegistus and his emerald tablet. We'll come back over our own Trinity later on. One of the best forms of expression of this Trinity is through the yoga of the sun. Omraam Mikhaël Aïvanhov called it Surya Yoga. It is at the core of his teaching. In India, sages revealed the importance of the sun thousands of years ago in their sacred book called the Puranas. Surya Yoga comprises all types of yogas. Agni Yoga, working with fire, purification. Bhakti Yoga, searching for God. Shabda Yoga, working with the word, love, and the creation of all divine things. Hatha Yoga, doing exercises and asanas. Jnani Yoga, studying of philosophy and becoming a model of perfection. Karma Yoga, practicing selflessness. Kriya Yoga, the yoga of the light. Laya Yoga, dissolving the ego and merging with the higher self. Raja Yoga, the practice of self-control. Surya Yoga contains them all, plus it activates our psychic center. It is the yoga of the future. And did you know there's a correspondence between light and sound? Well, it all begins with the primordial light, Videlina. It contains the 7 spirits before the throne of God, as the Zohar says in the Kabbalah. The Videlina light brings understanding, reveals the structure of the universe, and is the one that brings illumination. It is the one that reveals the cosmic music, the symphony of the spheres. Blessed are those who have the chance of hearing it, such as the Master. Back to the 7 spirits before the throne of God. They are manifesting in the Svetlina light, that light of the forte through the sun by the 7 colors we can observe through a prism. Each color corresponds to an electromagnetic radiation of frequency and wavelength, translating into elements of various composition and purposes such as hydrogen, calcium, magnesium, iron, and so forth. Therefore, the light of the sun rays transport elements for the life and growth of the vegetable, animal, and human kingdoms, ingredients needed for the physical development and for our spiritual advancement based on the cosmic blueprint. It is this kind of light that brings a sense of appreciation, protection, because we see to avoid physical obstacles, but also on the astral plane to avoid negative entities, and also to give us inner direction through wisdom and intuition. As everything is linked together, there is such a direct correspondence between each color of the light spectrum and specific musical notes that are measured in terahertz, electromagnetic waves, and also between the chakras, days of the week, planets, angelic orders, astrological signs, and the sephirot of the tree of life. It is said that the pyramids were built with the knowledge of sound, also that the universe was created with the sound Aum, A as the impulsion, U as the container, M as the manifestation, through ever-changing forms. Here you find the two eternal principles in action: the impulsion, the masculine principle, the container, the feminine principle, and as they interact, they produce the child or manifestation. Initiatic science is wonderful in that it all holds everything together so well, and you can verify the application on all levels from the spiritual down to the material plane. That is the science that is revealed in the divine school of Omraam Mikhaël Aïvanhov. If we manage to capture the quintessence that the sun offers us, we will absorb the properties of each of the 7 colors. Later, we'll come back over which spirit is associated to which color when we go through the exercises revealed at the sun. We too are composed of colors through our aura, which reflect the state of our health, our mental condition, and our emotions through various combinations of shades and tones. Our aura holds 3 incredible functions. It is a protection like a skin that protects against microbes and so forth. It allows for exchanges such as warmth and cold, but also exchanges with human beings. And it can sense and transmit messages from lower to or higher realm, so we know when to close ourselves down or open ourselves up. And what about prana? If the sun projects the visible light through its beam, it also projects these tiny particles of vital force carried to earth, which benefit our physical and mental health. Prana is not only abundant at sunrise, but also in the fruits and vegetables, thanks to the sun. When we consume them, especially with an awareness of consciousness, practicing the yoga of nutrition, or Jnana Yoga, we increase the vitality of our etheric body. Did you know that a strong etheric body is the best defense for a strong immunity system and against negative astral currents? Listening to a podcast recently by Dr. Jack Cruz, a renowned neurosurgeon, he was scientifically describing how we have electromagnetic currents circulating in our bodies, and the best way to stay healthy is by building up light in our body at sunrise. He mentions that it is the electrons that absorb the light and communicates it to the cells. Thus, by contemplating the sun when it rises, we can change the movement of the electrons so we are more luminous, healthier, and live more in peace and harmony. If we know how to decode the language of the sun, of nature, we can get answers to our problems and capture elements that nourish our intuition, our visions, and creations of a higher order. The sun is not something new for this coming era. It was revered throughout history to the Surya Yoga of ancient India, to Ra, the Egyptian sun with Ramses and Akhenaton, to Hermes Trismegistus in Greece, to Zoroaster in ancient Persia, in Judaism with the Zohar and the Kabbalah. In fact, all great traditions and blossoming civilization were based on a solar approach. A solar philosophy leads to universality. No one owns the sun nor its light. Here, I would like to share a story of going with a brother to India following the steps of the master. In this particular story, we were in Anashakti ashram where Gandhi had stayed. Early morning, everyone was standing looking at the Himalayas to the north. My friend German and I were turned 90 degrees from them, looking at the sun as it rose. A Brahman had observed us and later came to us asking why we were not turned towards the mountains, but the sun. So we told him we were doing our spiritual work. He asked if we had a master. I said yes, a Western master, and showed him the photo of Master Omraam Mikhaël Aïvanhov. He looked at it carefully and pulled the photo from his purse. It was the photo of Babaji, as mentioned in the autobiography of a yogi by Yogananda. I proceeded to say that the master had met Babaji under mysterious circumstances during his travel in India. He looked at me deep in the eyes and after a pause said, "We are of the same family." From then on, we went on talking about the light. We felt such a current between us that even now I get shivers on my arms as I tell this story. Bless his soul and bless all those who work for the light. Now, back to our subject. It is the light that will unite all of us in the future because Aquarius is sending those currents of fraternity and universality. In the Aquarian age, people will recognize nature as the new temple and God as dwelling within each being. Our human structure reflects this trinity of the sun through our mind, heart, and will. Initiatic science reveals the world of correspondences from the divine all the way down through the various kingdoms where we can verify in nature all these truths in action. Everything fits together in a marvelous way as we learn to read the living book of nature and study in the divine school of the Universal White Brotherhood. We discover that these correspondences also find an echo in our own psyche. It is said in the Zend-Avesta that when Zoroaster asked the god Ahura Mazda how primordial man fed himself, he answered that he ate fire and drank light. So why do we not learn to eat fire and drink light too to express the perfection of our primordial state? You will say it is not possible. But yes, it is possible. Connecting consciously with the sun and what it represents put us in a position to receive the elements that will help us penetrate the laws and mysteries of nature and to experience lasting peace and happiness. Light nourishes the brain, and the sacred fire nourishes the soul and spirit. The reason why readers and students of Surya Yoga go to contemplate the sunrise from spring to the fall equinoxes is that the sun is understood to be a living being, a living spirit. By focusing on it, we can enter into contact with our own spirit, thus reestablishing our own center around which all things turn and shine forth. Now, I would like to read you a daily meditation from the Master dated March 30th, 2002. When you are watching the sunrise, wait, watchful and attentive for the first ray, and as soon as the first ray appears, concentrate on absorbing it, swallowing it. So instead of simply watching the sunrise, you are drinking it, you are eating it, and you imagine that this living light spreads through all the cells of your organs, purifying them, strengthening them, and enlivening them. This exercise not only helps you concentrate, but you will feel your entire being quiver and illuminate because you are truly absorbing light. This is very powerful when you think about it. Meditate on it and integrate it into your practices. By the way, you can subscribe to receive by email the daily meditations for free by going to prosveta-usa.com. Now back to the sun. It is a biological law of nature that human beings begin to resemble what they identify with. In other words, we become what we contemplate. And so it is on the psychic level, which means that our soul begins to resemble the sun. By looking at it, we draw closer to our own center. The sun is a bridge to our higher self. Through the sun rays, we can change and replace the old particles in us. Cells are renewed every 7 years, but not the memory. At sunrise, we can graft new patterns, habits, and cliches. We have the seeds of divinity within us, and sunrise helps their blossoming and growth. Now I will go through several practices you can do at sunrise, which can be found in Volume 10, The Splendor of Tiferet, and Volume 13, A New Earth. The best way to have delightful experience at sunrise is first, go to bed early enough the night before and be free from trouble, which means to nurture peace of mind before falling asleep. You revise your day and see what you could have done better, and be thankful for all the good things that took place during that day. Get up on the right foot, literally, and say thank you for your life, your vitality, limbs, and organs, and dedicate your life to heaven. Do your morning ablutions, like washing your hands and face to remove any astral impurities from the night. Go outside before the sun rises and salute nature, first saying you love it and harmonize yourself with it. Then sit down in a comfortable position and for some minutes enjoy the beauty of dawn, the clarity and colors in the sky. Give time to your mental to slow down by simply observing your thoughts go by and prepare to welcome this magic moment. When the first ray appears, open yourself up and drink that first ray, literally. Open your mouth and drink up the etheric pranic particles. It is the elixir of everlasting life. You've heard of pranic people who survive for years on nourishing themselves with prana alone. Prana is distributed by the sun and particularly generous and beneficial in the early morning hours. After our station break, we'll come back to hear a beautiful and powerful formula given by the Master Omraam Mikhaël Aïvanhov in his own voice. As promised, in the voice of the Master, the magic formula to pronounce at sunrise. So you wait for the first ray with love and say within yourself, as the sun is rising over the world, so may the sun rise as freedom, immortality, eternity, and truth in my spirit. As the sun is rising above the world, in the same way, may the sun rise in my soul as love, goodness, and immensity. As the sun is rising over the world, in the same way, may the sun of intelligence, light, and wisdom rise in my intelligence. And as the sun is rising over the world, so may the sun of love, kindness, joy, happiness, and purity rise in my heart. And as this luminous, radiant sun rises above the world, so may the sun of strength, power, force and dynamic energy and activity rise in my will.
Comme ce soleil
as this luminous,
lumineux,
radiant,
rayonnant,
living sun
vivant s'élève
rises
au-dessus du
over the
monde,
world,
de la même
so
façon que le
may, in the
soleil
same
de la
way, the
santé,
sun
de la
of
vigueur,
health,
de la
vigor,
vitalité
and
s'élève
vitality
dans mon corps
rise in
tout
my
entier.
entire body.
Amen. Ainsi
Amen.
soit-il.
So be it.
Pour le royaume de Dieu
For
et
the
sa
kingdom
justice.
of God and his
Amen.
righteousness.
Ainsi soit-il.
Amen.
Pour
So
la
be
gloire
it.
de Dieu.
For the glory of God. Now we'll go through different exercises to do at sunrise. Imagine your higher self in the sun. Be that higher self looking down at you on the chair, watching it. Ask question to your higher self and wait to hear the response. Meditate on the Holy Trinity of the Son. The Father represents life, the Son light, and the Holy Spirit love. Feel the light, warmth, and life which awaken in you as wisdom, divine love, and life. When wisdom and love act in a balanced way, you stand in truth. Just be and contemplate the sun. By doing so, you come closer to your inner center, the heart of your own life. Your consciousness draws closer to your spirit, bringing you light, peace, freedom, and strength. Remember the adage, you become what you contemplate, that we spoke about earlier. Extract subtle elements from the sun. Before vitamins and minerals were put into tablets, they existed as subtle substances distributed by the sun, then condensed by the four elements into minerals, metals, precious stones, and plants. Here's a little story of a friend Huguette who had broken her arm. At sunrise, she took calcium from the sun. At her next medical examination, the doctors were amazed how fast the calcium had built in her arm. Another exercise is spiritual grafting. Just like science uses grafting on fruit and vegetables to improve their quality, so can we on a more subtle level. The sun is a storehouse full of these cuttings to help us get wiser, more patient, or healthier. So why not ask the sun to graft you the attribute you seek? Bask in the sun to awaken the seeds of virtues and qualities deposited in your soul. Visualize the aura of the soul penetrating your own aura, making it grow wide and bright. Imagine that you're a blossoming tree and that you distribute your many delicious fruit. Another one is to imagine that a waterfall comes from the sun. The light is to the sun what water is to the earth. The light from above becomes a river on earth. The water is the sun's rays. So imagine this water cascading down and bathing you in its vitality, perfection, and beauty. Imagine yourself as a prism, and the light shines through your body with the 7 colors. Use the 7 spirits of the 7 color as the prism shows these beautiful colors. Red is the spirit of life and love of all creatures. Maybe that is why our blood is red. There are 40,000 shades of red, so make sure you choose the one that reflected through a prism, because there are some reds that are linked to violence, war, or sensuality. Orange is the spirit of sanctity. It improves our health, vigor, and vitality. It gives us the desire for perfection. Yellow is the spirit of wisdom. It incites us to read, reflect, meditate, and seek wisdom. Green is the spirit of eternity and evolution. It encourages growth, development, and wealth. It is linked to youth and hope. No wonder all agriculture shows in green. Blue is the spirit of truth associated with peace, religion, and music. Indigo is the spirit of strength, royalty. It shares the same property as blue. Violet is the spirit of omnipotence, of divine love, and the spirit of sacrifice. Now, you can heal someone by using the following recipe as given by the master. Surround the area that requires healing with light and project through your fingers the colors red, violet, and blue. Invite higher beings to come and dwell so they bring their colors and music. Another exercise you can do is imagine that the 7 colors, one by one, radiate a long way out from you, and that all creatures that come within its radius benefit from it. You are building a strong aura that becomes a protection for you and a blessing for others. Imagine humanity as a single being and pour your love and your light into that being. Imagine the sun filling up your solar plexus with all its attributes. Did you know that in the brain, the gray matter is on the outside and the white matter is inside, whereas it is the reverse in the solar plexus? The gray matter allows us to think and the white matter to feel. It is the solar plexus that sends forces and energies to the brain, otherwise it goes sleepy. It is also through the solar plexus that we can truly communicate with the universe, for it is the solar plexus that is linked to the entire cosmos. I am sure you've had this gut feeling before. It was your solar plexus warning you through a feeling, and maybe your brain was saying the opposite. Only in hindsight could you say that that feeling was right. Here is a very interesting one. The rosary of 7 beads. Imagine a silver thread on which you will thread the following beads. The first bead is the center of your own kingdom. It's you. The second bead is your father, representing the center of your family. Whether you hold him in high esteem or not, it does not matter. It is symbolic, and anyway, he will get the benefit of this exercise. Third bead is the mayor of your town. Again, whether you support his or her agenda or not, she represents the head of the community. The fourth bead is the head of the country, the president or prime minister. Go beyond your political views here, because you are going beyond your ego in this exercise. The fifth bead is the head or regent of the planet, Sandalphon according to the Tree of Life, or Melchizedek. He holds a big role and is more powerful than all the others so far. Here you can put your spiritual master or teacher if you prefer. The sixth bead is the head of the solar system, the sun itself. Even if it is so immense, luminous, and hot, thread him into your rosary. 7 bead is the Lord, master of the whole universe, God himself. So there you have a full rosary with you at one end and God at the other. Now that you have all the beads, tie the 2 ends together so a continuous current flows from God, passing through every bead to you and back to God, and so forth. At the end of sunrise, while still sitting, we do the pranayama breathing, which is the alternate breathing exercise. Close your left nostril and breathe in from the right nostril on the count of 4. Hold on the count of 16. Close your right nostril and exhale through the left nostril on the count of 8. Keeping the right nostril closed, inhale again on the count of 4 through the left nostril. Hold on 16, then exhale through the right nostril on the count of 8. Repeat the full round 6 times. When capable, double the time, 8, 32, and 16. What to do on a rainy day? Stay inside and use a candle to begin your focus, simply looking at the flame to appease the mental, and then use your imagination to do your sunrise exercises. As day is important, so is night. It is in the dark that preparation takes place, such as germination and gestation. Consciousness is linked with the brain, and the subconscious is linked with the solar plexus. On cloudy days, you can go outside and do an inner work. For example, let yourself be rocked by the cosmic waves for a deep inner work to take place in the subconscious mind. Now let's talk about the body of glory. Have you heard about the body of glory? It is the body that Jesus appeared to his disciple at the resurrection. It is the seat of divinity, and we all carry that seat within us without exception. The way to nourish and develop our body of glory is by focusing on the higher self and by integrating the property of purity and selflessness. We can add the formation of this body of glory, also called the body of resurrection. It is the body of immortality. It is linked to our etheric body, which is the seat of vitality, and linked to the Buddhic body, the body of selfless love, absolutely impersonal. Our body of glory is nourished by all our luminous, disinterested thoughts. Light is the element that gives meaning to life, brings inner riches, reveals powers and true pleasure. It is light that awakens the faculties that give one access to the spiritual world. Spiritual light brings illumination. The greatest blessings are found in light. Any time of the day and several times a day you can say, "Oh light, you are the most intelligent of being, so I beg you to enter and enlighten my mind and warm my heart." One day young Mikhaël asked his master Peter Dunne for answers to essential questions such as, what is the most effective way to connecting with God and developing spiritual virtues? Peter Dunne replied, you must think of light, concentrate on light, and imagine the whole universe bathing in light. We know how to nourish the physical body, but we forget to nourish our spiritual self with the purest substance, light. Now, with the coming of the Aquarian Age, predictions by the best clairvoyants, prophets, seers, and great masters all agree that we are heading towards another golden age in which a solar civilization will rise to great heights. A shift in value may be necessary, but only after a purge will an era of fraternity, universality come. People will be ready to work for the same ideal of one big earth family, cooperating among nations and sharing a respect for Mother Nature. These ideals need to be awakened and nurtured. Will this come about through constraint, abuse, and suffering? Hopefully not. The world needs all the light workers possible to dedicate their light to this ideal, a universal brotherhood. People are attached to gold as a metal of value, as an investment, but they may remain cruel, egoists, and narrow-minded. And what is worse is that they must leave it behind when they die. When we realize that gold comes first from the sun as an ethereal substance, we could try to obtain this gold and store it in our solar plexus. It will be so useful to open people's hearts, enabling our understanding to become vaster, expanding to infinity. With this spiritual gold, we become very rich with virtues and qualities that will remain with us throughout our incarnations and won't have to be left behind like physical gold. Of course, there are conditions to obtain this ethereal gold from the sun, and the main condition is purity. In the Kabbalah, the Sephirah that represents the foundation of spiritual life is called Yesod. Volume 7 of the Complete Works is solely dedicated to understand all the aspects of purity. Purity must be understood not simply as a sexual aspect, but in all aspects of our lives. What we eat, drink, see, read, and surround ourselves with. Even when it comes to our thoughts, feelings, desires, and wishes, do they sustain something beautiful, aesthetic, and harmonious? What Hermes Trismegistus called the most powerful of all forces is the sexual force. It is the same nature as the solar energy. It is a force that exists on different planes. On the physical plane, it manifests as sexual energy in a liquid form, creative force. And on the spiritual plane, it manifests as pure light, a co-creative form. As for our personal sexual life, we can ask ourselves, what direction do we give to it? Do we use it for our own physical selfish satisfaction, which only nourishes the astral world? Or do we know how to orient it towards a sacred divine purpose? Here, I encourage you to read Love and Sexuality in 2 volumes, and the pocket book, The Winged Dragon and the Sexual Force. Purity opens the door to the light. When the prism is properly cut, it refracts perfectly well the 7 colors. As we mentioned earlier, we are a trinity with our mind, heart, and will, so we represent the prism. If we know how to balance these 3 components well into an equilateral triangle, all these 7 colors will be reflected through our aura. The sunrise practices, the breathing exercises, prayer, meditation, concentration, contemplation, and identification are all vital methods that help the physical and subtle bodies to become like the Trinity of the Sun. The evolution of a being is measured by the intensity of his or her life. Speed and intensity are criteria of perfection. A good example is the turning wheel. It accumulates mud if it turns too slow, but faster it propels it out. An intense life is the path to the essential truth in the universe. So take the vibration of light as criteria under all circumstances. On a physical level, by what you eat, drink, breathe, the way you behave, even by what you watch and places you visit. On the psychic level, through your thoughts and feelings, what you read and entertain inwardly, your aspirations, and your goals. All these define the quality of our emanation and the strength of our aura. Our aura is increased in beauty and power by our inner work. That means by what we think, feel, and how we live. Our aura is a circle of light that grows through purity, selfless love, and action. For thought to be powerful, it needs to be supported by a luminous aura. If light travels at 156 miles per second or 300 kilometers per second, thought is even faster. It is almost instantaneous. With vigilance, one becomes spiritually pure, and this purity will not only bring you all blessings, but also blessings to others and to all creatures. Here, I would like to share a beautiful quote from the Master. As long as your aura is weak, nature's spirits can trouble and harm you. If you want to be protected, form a luminous aura around you. Imagine that circle that you place a luminous source that ceaselessly springs forth with the light emanating all around you to your friends and everything. You will notice then how much your life is changing. You are told to pray. That means to send luminous rays in space. If you do not obtain any result, it is because you do not send any light. The invisible world does not like to busy themselves with what is turned off. If you want an answer, you must turn on all your lights. This quote is from Volume 9 of the Complete Works. The development of humanity brought teachers corresponding to its degree of evolution. There have been 3 epochs: the era of the Father, strength, willpower, and severity. Like the Old Testament, God was considered severe, vindictive. It was the law of justice, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. The era of the Son, light and intelligence, is the New Testament. Jesus presented God as our Father and to turn the other cheek. And now is coming the era of the Holy Spirit, an era of love, represented by the Son's sacred fire. God is within. All religions will unite in one solar religion. The future testament will be truth and perfection. Thinking, feeling, and acting will be guided by the higher self. Back in 1960, traditional science discovered the laser and perfected its coherent light with great success, using it in many applications, including metal and cement cutting and for precise medical surgeries. Did you know that laser is the acronym for light amplification by stimulated emission of radiations? Photons of the same frequency produce a monochromatic light that, when sent in a single direction, create a coherent and extraordinary powerful light. Science does no more than to apply to the technical field certain laws and phenomena that already exist in the invisible. Initiatic science has long been aware of the power of the laser. Great masters have trained their disciples in the practice of concentrating altogether on the light, producing a powerful and spiritual coherent light that can uplift all of humanity. Let us practice this laser meditation together. As you breathe in, imagine that you attract the light and draw it inside. As you breathe out, project the light within every cell and organ. By breathing in unison, we form a laser of powerful spiritual energy that is released for the awakening of consciousness of millions of individuals throughout the world so that they may begin to work together for the peace and harmony of humanity. The essential aspect of a solar philosophy is that it leads to a spirit of universality. We each are a reflection of the spiritual trinity of cosmic light, universal love, and eternal truth through our own structure, our human structure, mind, heart, and will, and our superior nature, causal, Buddhic, and atmic bodies. With this knowledge and application, we see each other as brothers and sisters of the same planet, as Mother Nature. No more division and separation, for we are built on the same divine model that lays dormant deep within us. The practices we spoke about today, such as sunrise and the pranayama breathing, are only a few of the methods brought in the divine school of Omraam Mikhaël Aïvanhov. His books offer many more based on how we live, such as how to eat, yoga of nutrition, how to breathe, how to sleep, how to bring better babies into the world, how to work on all levels, physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. In short, how to integrate the divine into every aspect of our lives. We are the forerunners of a golden age. By accepting to transform ourselves and to integrate our divinity, we are creating a new heaven and a new earth. If we all nourish the ideal of bringing a golden age on earth, we hasten its realization. May we all work with the light and for the light. Until next time.
That was so useful, Carmen. Too often we take the sun for granted, but not anymore. Now we know we can awaken, speed up our evolution, and even move closer to enlightenment through these methods. We also have tools to grow our intuition by communing with our higher self, and we can receive answers to our problems from a higher point of view. What stood out most, though, is the practice of the laser meditation. It reminds us not to remain isolated in our work with the light, but to use it to bless all of humanity, sharing and receiving the luminous particles of divine light together. If you've enjoyed this episode, please stay tuned for the upcoming episodes. Here is a preview of what is still to come. Alex shall return with sacred geometry. Rolf Desiree will speak on astrology and the influence of Aquarius. Laura Uplinger on the joy of pregnancy eating, from cravings to conscious choices. Class Lan will present an introduction to psychology, drawing on the teaching and the insights of Carl Jung. And finally, at the end of our third series, you will hear short testimonials on how this teaching has transformed many, many people's lives. See you in 2 weeks. Stay safe and stay connected.